welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast, episode 13. Today I am joined by Phil. Rowan is off dealing with some kind of crazy fire, or metaphorical fire at work. And we have Suresh as our guest. Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi there.
So what we're going to do is we'll cover off the 0.58 release, and then Phil will introduce our guest and we'll jump into some interview questions.
Let's do it.
All right. So a breaking change, first, let's get that out of the way, is there was a change for the Lutron system because they made an update and it broke Home Assistant's connectivity. But being the awesome community that we have with all these developers, it's already fixed.
Really quickly, once again, straight onto it, weren't they?
Is a breaking change, so I think you have to set everything up, set up the integration again.
And I'm guessing if you had a previous version of like Home Assistant 057, the Lutron isn't going to work on that anymore, so you will need to upgrade to at least 058.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, there's not really many reasons not to update. Pretty good about, making things backwards compatible. Speaking of which, the new front end.
Yeah, that's come out in this release too.
Yeah, well, the new back end of the front end, which you have to enable at the moment.
Yeah, it's opt-in at the moment.
Yeah, because if you have a custom UI, might not work with the new front end.
Yeah, I think you have to refactor all those at the moment if you want them to work with the new UI. It's just upgrading the JavaScript engine, make it a bit more modern.
Yes. So it should be, nice and speedy, which is good. It sounds like some older devices won't support it, but they should automatically go back to the version that's supported, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
And I think from 059 or maybe 060, they're going to enable this new front end by default. So it's a good chance if you have a custom UI to start updating before it becomes required.
Yes, absolutely. My other favorite sensor, not favorite sensor, I guess it is a sensor. My favorite change from this is system log in the front end. I'm quite happy about that because it's probably the most powerful tool that we have. So being able to see it in the front end is pretty damn handy.
Yeah, I think that's a great addition as well. I think it only shows the last 50 entries in the front end UI, which is fine, but yeah, at least there's now a bit more information in the front end as opposed to just plain text.
Yeah, I really love the system log integration right in the HAS itself. So helps you with a lot of the system under, the behind the scenes, a lot of the things that happens in the system log. Now you can see it online, so that's really good.
Yeah, and it's nice and passed as well, which is super helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all these things are getting Home Assistant towards being more user friendly and not just for developers and people with IT skills. So yeah, all these nice little things are making a big difference to that.
Yeah, the new other feature that we have now is that the integration with the tile, for presence detection. That's a really cool one. So that's the Bluetooth trackers and some of the other presence detection mechanisms. The more we have, the better accuracy we're going to get. So, it's very exciting to see the newer presence detection components and modules getting released. So it's only going to make it much better now.
So the tile one's actually interesting. I can, from looking at the docs, it looks like the tile itself is Bluetooth, but it does still require it to be paired with a phone, which then communicates its location.
That's right. You need to have the app on your phone. And you need to provide the ID and password for the website so that you can integrate with the website. So it doesn't really talk to the device itself, I guess. Maybe it's talking directly to the system.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's cloud polling rather than local. I wonder if you with a BLE radio on the Pi 3 or whatever, if you can actually see them without needing the app.
That's what I was wondering too, because you have the Happy Bubbles beacons, is that right?
I do.
Yeah.
And you can poll them locally, can't you?
Yes. Yep. Running the the presence detection app on my Pi 3.
Yep.
What else have we got? Italian railroad sensors now available. I
love all these public transport ones. It's so interesting to see, all the different cities that have open APIs and they just get integrated. It's great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying seeing, non-US things, that those countries. It's nice to see some, smaller or countries where we have less users.
One of my favorite ones is it's actually been in a while. I think it's the Swedish hot water sensor. If I'm remembering correctly, there's one that measures, like, it tells you the temperature currently of the hot water service there, which I thought was very interesting.
That's clever.
They have a hot water service to homes.
Yes, I believe in that country because they have like the natural hot springs or something. I could be making this up, but I believe that's how they get hot water to those houses.
Hot water as a service.
Yeah.
Sorry. What else? I think those were the main exciting ones. There's new presence detection for a router, a Pi load sensor, which is a download manager, Volta VPS. So now we've got Linode, DigitalOcean, and Volta, which are the main three kind of super popular cloud providers for virtual machines. Right. And the lacrosse sensor, which are the weather stations. So you can, there's a couple of different ways, bits of hardware that you can use to get Home Assistant to talk directly to it.
So I'm guessing that might be similar to the Nieto, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the weather station that they have there.
Yeah, so it looks like the only lacrosse sensors they've got at the moment are a temperature probe and a temperature humidity.
Okay.
Let's have a look at. Yeah, so there's a few. I don't think it's specifically weather station at the moment, but that's what I know lacrosse as, is the weather stations you put on the roof of your house.
Yep.
The other new feature, I think, is the language translation. Looks like we've got more words being translated as we speak.
That is just blowing up. It's unbelievable.
So I think last time we discussed it. Since then, we've actually they moved the first time, and now it's because it's using that service.
Right.
Everyone's just jumped on it, and it's great.
We have about 400 people contributing to the languages section right now for the localize, including myself. I came from India, so I got access to 2 different languages. And
perfect.
Yeah, the first of 2 languages, initial set of words that we were supposed to translate were fairly easier. And then, we got this list of words that need to translate. We got like 100 more words that need to translate. It took me forever to do that. And it was so difficult to do the translation because the translation is not necessarily, it's not very easy. It's not very straightforward. There are different meanings to different words in different languages. But I'm very excited to see all of the new languages being added actively as well.
Well, thank you for your effort in doing that. Without people taking the time like you did, it would never happen. And so we've got, as of the 0.58 releases, 42 supported languages, 130 keys or phrases to translate, and we're at 79% complete.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is. And the iOS app's been added now as well, and is supported in 7 different languages.
That's right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And the Home Assistant's going to take over the world, I think. And this is a fantastic, direction.
Well, if you think about some other popular hubs, like Vera or even the Samsung Smart Things, how many languages do you think they support right now? I mean, you can't even buy the Samsung Smart Things outside of the US or the UK, I believe. So having, how many languages did you say, sorry?
42.
Officially 42, that's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think I could name 42 languages.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
So interesting because right now, some of the entity names or the group names if you use a different language, they don't show up well. So we're going to have to figure out a way to be able to name the groups and entities in different languages.
Yeah, that always comes hard because of the non-English languages. Yeah.
Yes, that's the hard part. I believe, all of the things that you see online, read-only text and the titles and menu items, they are fantastic. They're easier to do it. But once you start pushing the language into the source code where entity names and things like that would come up, that's going to cause some problems. I know because when I got these Z-Wave devices, and some people call it Z-Wave devices.
That would be us.
So from now on, I'm going to refer to them as Z-Wave because it's easy for me to say it. Even though I grew up saying Z all the time. So the Z-Wave devices, when you add devices to add nodes through the has UI, by default, I believe it takes it as a Unicode string, and it doesn't display the name. So you have to explicitly go to the settings and then change the name for you to be able to manage that. So that's how I found out that the name of the entities you cannot have in other languages. Right now, it's only English is supported. So just an FYI.
Yes, I think one way to solve that in the short term will be, just taking those, for example, thinking of French with the little accented E for cafe. If someone was to write, cafe
Right.
entry, you'll just replace that E with the English equivalent for the entity ID, but the friendly name would still remain with the accented E. I think that would be one of the best ways to do it, but yeah, we'll just have to let the devs decide how they're going to manage that.
Yeah.
It is an interesting conundrum that will need to be solved eventually.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of smart people out there, so I'm sure somebody will come through it. Good solution.
Exactly right.
All right. I think that was probably a pretty good summary. So, tell us about Suresh.
So, Suresh, I've done a bit of. I went through your GitHub and was very impressed with your setup. So you're originally from India. You're now in the States. Is that right?
That's right. I've been in the States for the last 20 years now.
Yep.
So this all started with Home Assistant. It happened by accident, by the way. I was getting ready to go to India last year, around the same time frame. In fact, this is the day I left India last year.
And good anniversary.
I know. So right before then, I was trying to figure out how do I keep my lights on in the front yard when I'm gone, or how do I just turn off the lights and whatnot. So I started with the 2 switches and a LifeX bulb in the house. That's how I started. And next thing you know, I ended up getting 150 devices and got into Home Assistant. It was one of the wonderful product that I couldn't even. It's like a gift from above, right? I tried with the OpenHab first. I just couldn't go anywhere, and then I gave up quickly. And then I moved on to Home Assistant. It was a breeze. Once I set it up to things, it was just an amazing software. The fact that it gives you the complete integration capabilities across these devices, which otherwise don't talk to each other, and being able to do some automations by integrating all of those information. And the concept of this hardware sensors and the software sensors is also phenomenal when it comes to Home Assistant. So and I just fell in love with it as soon as I saw that.
And, so do you have an IT background? Did that help you in setting up Home Assistant?
I do. So I have been in IT for the last 20 years as well. So
okay,
I've done a lot of programming before. Not much these days because of my job requires, I don't do much programming anymore, but I'm still like to keep my hands dirty and do things myself. I find opportunities where I can do these kind of things, and Home Assistant definitely gave me an opportunity to get back to my roots and do more development.
So you've been using Home Assistant for about a year now, I'm guessing?
Yes, pretty close to a year now, yes.
And so you've got Home Assistant. Are you just running it on a Pi, or using Hasio, or is there any other hardware you're running Home Assistant on?
I started with the Raspberry Pi, and then probably after maybe 6 months or so, I got a lot of Z-Wave devices, and it was taking too long for me during the startup times for me to go through it. And then because I make a lot of changes, the restarts take some time and whatnot. So I decided to move on to its own standalone server. So I now run on in fact, yesterday I got the Nuke as one of the Black Friday deals that I got, and I install everything on a Nuke now. So it's the next unit of computing, Intel i7 processor. So
Nice.
Works phenomenal.
Yeah, that startup time is a killer on the Pi.
Yes.
It's just so slow. I'm still running on a Pi. I really need to move, but I just haven't got around to it.
2 seconds to boot and then 2 seconds to restart.
Wow, that's crazy.
It just flies.
Yeah. So tell us, let's kind of put you on the spot. What's your favorite automation?
Oh boy, that's a good question. That's a hard one too. I have, any automation that requires a lot of templating is my favorite automation. So I love templates in the Home Assistant. It was a hard thing for me to get my mind around when I started working with the Home Assistant. Some of the automations that I have are, my home security system automations are really, really good. I really enjoy them. The other automations that I would say is, the trash and recycle pickups. We always are the last people to pull our recycle bins on the street because everybody else has done it already. So, and before that, myself and my wife argue saying today is not the day, tomorrow is the day, or whatnot. And then it was a problem for me. So I tried to do something in a gathering work and this and that. It's very hard to do it. So I decided, let me just write it down as an automation in a Home Assistant. And it became very popular because at the time when I wrote the trash and recycle pickup, the module or the package, we didn't have as many sensors we do as today. So I had to be really creative in maintaining the state in the MQTT and do all of those things to be able to have the functionality right. So it was one of the decent automation that I did for trash and recycle. It also accounts the change in the schedule. Like today, if there's a public holiday, the recycle day moves one day ahead. So it has to change. So all of that
does that automatically.
Right now, it does not do that. There's a functionality where I can change in the UI. So if there's a holiday, I can just go back and say, just move the day, and it'll be good for next 2 weeks or until the next holiday comes. So, but I think it's really good. The other automations, I would say, one of my favorites are the audio system that I have at home. It's like text to speech kind of an engine that I have. I cannot live without it now. So it has to. It's on all the time. It gives me real time information all the time.
So this is one I picked up from your repo because you mentioned your multi-room audio, but is it something that you've created yourself, or is it a system like Sonos? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So my house is about 19 years old house. So there's there are no built-in speakers in the house, which I love to have speakers around the house. And I wanted to come up with some kind of a solution where no matter which room I'm in, when I walk from room to room, I want to be able to hear the seamless audio sound effects. And I looked around, a lot of the solutions are very, very expensive. So you go with the Sonos or any other, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth-based systems, they're expensive. So I decided to start leveraging my Raspberry Pis and a small, portable Bluetooth speakers that I have at home. And I start connecting them together. And every room now has a Raspberry Pi and a speaker connected to it.
And can you use them as multi-room audio? Like, will they sync up, or is it literally just like for playing individual songs or announcements in each room?
Yes, everything. So all of the Raspberry Pis that I have in every room in the house, they're all synchronized by. I use a software called the Snapcast server. So it's the server that streams the audio content out into the Wi-Fi network in my house. Each room has its own Raspberry Pi, and I have a software called a Snapcast client running on them. They receive the packets from the server, and each packet has a server's time encoded in it. So when the client receives the package, it knows it knows exactly when to play the track. It should wait for 10 milliseconds, or should we skip a track and then play it? So it knows exactly how to play it. And all these packets are sent to all these clients, and they all synchronize the music and the streaming content, and then they all play the exact same millisecond. So it's amazing, because you're seeing those on a Wi-Fi network, and this is Wi-Fi networks seem to have a lot of lags. And
yes, yeah, exactly.
You have microwave going around. It impacts your Wi-Fi signals. You have a Zigbee device that I have that impacts with the Wi-Fi signals and whatnot. There's a lot of interference. Even with that, it just works amazingly well. So,
and what can you play through that? Because I know I use Sonos at my house, and so obviously Sonos has integrations, with SoundCloud and Spotify. Is it only local audio that you can play, or is it just anything that you can put out of like a PC, like audio?
Yeah, so there is. I use something called the MPD. It's called the MoPD Media Player.
Mm-hmm.
And MoPD Media Player has a lot of extensions. You have Spotify extensions. You can play local media. You can even stream YouTube content as an audio to that. You can select playlists. You can pick radio channels. You can do pretty much everything. You can play music. You can play the TTS announcements, text-to-speech announcements from Alexa, from a Home Assistant application. And you can listen to radio channels. You can do many things just over the solid program. Yeah.
Look out, Sonos! You're coming.
And this is the poor man's version of Sonos. I probably spent about $300 on all the Raspberry Pis and speakers, and my whole house is now completely audio enabled, I would say.
And what's the integration like with Home Assistant? I know with the text-to-speech component, you can specify which Sonos speaker to put it on. Are your media players the same, where you can just specify, I want this text-to-speech announcement to go off in the bedroom?
Right. So from Home Assistant, I use something called the G Streamer. It's also one of the components supported by Home Assistant developer community as well. Mm-hmm. And I specify a pipe for the G Streamer to stream my text-to-speech content to, where my Snapcast server is listening on. And then it takes all the content on a pipe and then distributes and broadcasts to all the clients around the house.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a very little neat architecture. It works phenomenally well. And the best part is, once you enable all of the Snapcast and Snap servers and everything, in the Home Assistant dashboard, you will see all of the media players that you can control individually if you want to. So let's say if the kids are reading upstairs and I want to play some music, I can decide not to play the music upstairs and only play downstairs in the basement. If the TV is on, I can skip the TV room and I can play everywhere else. So you have a lot of control on how you want to play the audio and then announcements and whatnot. That's a really, really good feature.
Really is a Sonos killer, isn't
it? Yeah, I really enjoyed building that,
Yep. Yeah, if I hadn't already invested in Sonos speakers for every room in my house, that'd be what I'd be doing too. All right. So, speaking of having, like the kids upstairs and things like that, what automations have you created specifically for your kids?
So automations for kids, I don't think they enjoy any automation that I do. So we do it for ourselves, so we can keep an eye on the kids. So I think the first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about kids is safety and security, right? We want to be able to keep an eye on the kids, on their whereabouts, where they are, how if they're running around, moving around, and whatnot. They both have iPhones, so that's a good thing. So at least we can track with the basic stuff. With the Home Assistant, now we have OnTracks and Life 360 apps on them, and I really know exactly when they leave the home zone, when they're coming into the home, when they left the school, when they all of those announcements. As soon as they leave the school, I get an announcement in the home saying your kid has left the school. So that's amazing, because now I know how to, we need to go back and, go to the bus stop and pick up the kids and whatnot. Those are really, really helpful for me as well as for my wife. My wife really enjoys those kind of location tracking kind of things. The own tracks is good, but reliability is not very good. We also use the Life 360 app. The Life 360 app, I wrote a custom component basically that talks to the Life 360 servers, pulls the data, all the longitude, latitude, your battery information, and everything else, and then drops the information to the MQTT in the exact same format as OwnTracks. So I get updates from OwnTracks and from Life 360 in the exact same format. So my existing device tracker code that I have works automatically. So
that's very smart.
So that actually helped me a lot. So now I don't have to manage two different things. I can always go back and change some component as long as the format is the same as OwnTracks, and I'm good to go.
And is that custom component in your GitHub repo as well?
Yes, it's on my GitHub repo as well.
Cool. We'll leave a link to that in the show notes if anyone wants to check it out.
It's a very, very impressive repo.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Actually, on your repo, you've got a nice little map of how your home automation works with all the little Raspberry Pis. Can I just ask, what software did you use to create that map? Because I know that there'll be a few of us out here that are looking for something to map out how our home automation works.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so that graphic that I created using Microsoft Visio.
Visio, perfect.
Microsoft Visio, yeah. So at work, I have Microsoft Visio on my laptop, so I have access to software. And I've been using that for last 12 years or so. It has so many stencils and shapes and availability for different types of diagrams. You can build a network diagram, or you can build a home diagram, or you can build a computer diagram, or you can build a database diagram. Everything you can do, it's all the stencils are available. So I am so used to that. My home laptops and desktops, they all have Visio running on there as well.
Nice. So, and on that map, you've got the 3 Raspberry Pis running your home automation. Are they all running Home Assistant?
Yeah, I think I need to go back and update the diagram a little bit because I no longer run my Home Assistant on Raspberry Pis.
Yes, you're on the NUC.
I'm on the NUC now, and before that I was on the Ubuntu server. But I do. So I do have multiple instances of Home Assistant running at the moment at home. Not a true active passive or it's not load balance or anything.
Yep.
What I do is the secondary instance of the Home Assistant has all of the same setup, except some of the automations are disabled. So none of the automations picked up. And then I have a MQTT, a messaging system that I leverage to see which one is active and which one is passive. And based on that, other ones, it automatically enables all the automations in the secondary makeup can pick it up.
This is something I've been tossing up and down. So Dan will understand this. We both use limitless LED lights, and every time I have to make a change to my config, restart Home Assistant, and all the lights go out. It can get very annoying very quickly. So I'm trying to work out a way to run 2 versions of 2 instances of Home Assistant, one just for the lights and then one for everything else. But getting them both in sync and then maybe another Home Assistant that can actually run as a backup in case one goes down. Sounds like you've solved it or getting pretty close to it.
Yeah, this is an interesting setup that I have, but I still have a lot of issues that comes with it right now. So there is some of the sensors that we use, they have a limit in terms of how many requests can it make. So for example, you have dark sky, you have a limit of maybe 1,000 APIs per day. If I have running on 2 different Raspberry Pis with the same authentication code, you quickly run out of the number of times you can make some calls, the number of APIs you can make a day. So there are some glitches that I need to figure out what to do with it. Maybe I should deploy a 3rd instance and do all of them in a different part. So it just grows, right? But yeah, I think that's an interesting way to do that.
Nice. Yeah, I hadn't actually thought, Phil, of running a Home Assistant instance just for lights, but I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah, it's something to give. But so I use Vera for my Z-Wave. Z-Wave sensors, and So I could technically run 2 versions of Home Assistant and just pull the same like motion sensors out of the Vera into the 2 different instances. I do then double the amount of calls I'm making to that hub. So I'm doubling the network traffic. But it's something that I'm just trying to reduce the amount of frustration it comes to when doing a restart on Home Assistant, and that's something I'm considering.
Yeah, so I've had some situations where similar to some of the issues that we have with running multiple instances. I built my own garage door opener with a bunch of ESP8266 Node MCU modules and an MQTT. And one day we found out that the garage door got opened up in the middle of the night. We didn't even know what happened there. So, and then it's very hard sometimes to completely rely on MQTT for critical things like those. Now I ended up removing all of the garage stuff and leave the garage alone.
As a software developer, I'm also in the mind that Home Assistant is great that it has so many components, but you are creating that single point of failure. If that one instance of Home Assistant goes down, like my walk-in robe light doesn't turn on, which can be very annoying. But then also, if you split out into multiple instances, then you're just creating more points of failure. And if one link in the chain goes down, then potentially everything stops working. So it's hard to get that balance of having everything in the one place where if that one thing goes down, everything goes down, and then splitting it out, but not splitting it out too much that it becomes a burden to keep it updated.
That's very true. It's that's definitely something that we need to work on.
So looking at your repo and the picture of your dashboard, how do you find anything? It's huge.
That's a good question. So I myself ask that question all the time. So the thing with the default view is if you hide the default view in Home Assistant and you add a new device or whatnot, they don't show up by default because they're part of the default view.
Yeah.
So there's no way they automatically show up. So I had to keep my default view on all the time so that it's there if I need to go find that out. And then what I did was I created multiple views after that, and I separated all my lights into one view, cameras into one view, home, trash and recycle stuff into one view. So now I have smaller views that are manageable. Where my wife hates the first page. When she was like, "How do you even find the stuff in there? It's just way too much stuff, right?" And that is after I've made all my automations hidden, so none of my automations are visible on the UI. There were about it's like unbelievable amount of automation that I have. It just goes on forever, right? So I had to literally use a customized global file to kind of hide all of the automations from the UI completely. And most of the automations work based on some input booleans. So I use those input booleans as the controls, and I have a page for settings that says all the text-to-speech announcements. I have an input boolean. If it is on, then announcements will be home at home. Otherwise, if it is off, then no announcements in the house. So things like that. So I say all the device tracker stuff, I can disable them and I can enable them. So that's how I manage them. And I also have Alexa in the HomeKit at home, so that pretty every room has as those. So we can also activate it via the voice commands. So when I'm in the kitchen, I can just say, "Hey Alexa, turn on kitchen light," and it'll turn on.
Do you use
tablets or anything on the walls?
I'm sorry.
Both of us went to ask the same question at the same time. Go ahead, Phil.
Do you use tablets or anything on the walls to control stuff?
Not yet. I'm debating whether I should have it or not, because it's hard for me to condense things on one simple view. Then I'll be standing near the wall and try to flip through the pages if I have multiple views and whatnot. Most of the things that I do at home, where to turn on the home security systems or to enable voice verifications or turning on the lights or switches and whatnot, they're all available through my voice activated commands. in every room I have these echoes. So there's no really need for me to go to a tablet and physically operate it. It's basically replacing a switch to a tablet that makes you to walk out there and then do it. Rather, I just want to sit and just say, hey, turn the lights off or turn the lights on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, well, actually, you mentioned a couple of times that your security system. Have you got a monitored security system from a company, or is the security system something that you've created yourself?
So this is I use something called the SimpliSafe, which is sort of like a DIY a home security system. You're still paying for them for 24/7 monitoring, active monitoring, but the devices are yours. You're not renting them. You're not paying a monthly charge, or you're not bound to any contracts or whatnot. You can expand the system to as many devices as you want, and you can reduce it to keep it bare minimum security system as well. So the good thing is, and again, the power of home security, the home assistant is it gives you the access to many different security systems out there that just makes your life way easier when it comes to managing it.
Nice. I think that's all the prepared questions we had for you. Is there anything else we want to ask, Phil?
No, I think that covers off everything.
Again, a very inspiring discussion. Whenever we have, masters of Home Assistant on, like Suresh and Carlo and people like that, and just listening to everything they're doing with it, it's like, right, I need to get out and do some of this.
And even more ideas are added to the bucket, just keeps growing. But if anyone else wants to come on and share their ideas, they should send us an email, feedback@hamsterpodcast.io, or jump on the Discord channel and come on.
Yeah, absolutely. We record at the same time every 2 weeks. So I'm sure we'll be able to find a time at some point where you can come on and, have a chat, join us for the show, and, inspire people to spend more money and time.
Excellent. So Dan and Phil, I appreciate. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here. So it was an interesting conversation, very interactive.
Well, thank you for your translations and your contributions to your GitHub repo and making it open.
I enjoy every one of the podcasts, and I hope we continue this more, and we get more and more people coming on board, and we learn from each other and make it a better place to enjoy, and we go from there.
Thanks, Suresh. Really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.